Okay, so I'm just going to say it. The whole 15 minutes a day thing is a lie.
Mike,
No, I'm serious. Not the time part, the advice part. The actual thing they tell you to do in those 15 minutes.
you're going to get so much hate for that.
Good. That means people are watching.
Okay, but honestly, he's not wrong.
Okay, real talk. There's this idea floating around every English learning corner of the internet. Practice 15 minutes a day. Listen, repeat, write, done. Fluency incoming.
And it sounds right. It sounds so right. That's the problem.
Oh, for anyone just landing here, this is English Couch. I'm Mike.
I'm Sarah. We are not your English teachers. We're just two people who think about this stuff way too much.
Here's the real thing though. If your 15-minute habit isn't actually changing how you sound, how you think in English, how fast the words come, then you're spending 15 minutes a day feeling productive while staying exactly where you are.
And that's not just annoying, that's actually demoralizing. Because you're showing up, you're doing the work, and nothing moves.
By the end of this, you're going to know exactly what's wrong with the advice everyone gives. And more importantly, what to swap it for.
And there's one thing in here about speaking that I was doing completely wrong for years, like structurally wrong, and nobody told me. We're getting there.
Okay, so the classic plan, and I've heard this 1,000 times, is 5 minutes of listening, 5 minutes of speaking, 5 minutes of writing. Five, five, five.
The math is clean, I will give it that.
Right, but here's where it falls apart. They say, watch a short video, have a listening goal, listen twice. And that's actually partially correct.
Okay, what's the partially doing there?
The goal part is real. Your brain listens differently when it's looking for something. That's not a trick, that's just how attention works. If you press play with no purpose, your brain treats it like background noise and goes, cool, vibes.
Cool, vibes. That's exactly what my brain does.
But here's the part they skip. 5 minutes isn't enough time to actually process new language, unless you're doing something specific with what you hear. You have to interact with the language after you hear it.
Okay, because I used to just watch clips and think, I understood most of that, I'm improving. And I was just consuming, like snacking on language. Nothing was sticking.
Exactly. There's a difference between understanding language in the moment and actually acquiring it. And the gap between those two things is what we call the recall problem.
Your brain heard it, it did not learn it.
So the actual fix is this. After your 5 minutes of listening, pause, close your eyes, and try to reconstruct what you just heard. Out loud. Not perfectly, just what did they say? How did they say it? What words surprised you?
That's the part that turns input into memory, because now your brain has to reach for the language, not just receive it.
2-minute add-on. Completely changes what the 5 minutes does.
Okay, speaking alone. This is the one I have feelings about.
Oh, I know you have feelings.
So they say, describe your day, talk to the mirror, do this thing called the repeat and change method, where you swap one word in a sentence at a time.
Which, I'll be fair, repeat and change is actually a real technique. Sentence frames are genuinely useful for building flexibility.
The mirror thing, though. Okay, here's my issue. When you talk to yourself in the mirror, you're performing. You're thinking about your face. You're not thinking about language.
Hmm. Okay, that's actually a real point.
And I did this for months. Months. I would stand in my bathroom and introduce myself to myself. Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm from I'm from my apartment, Mike. I knew where I was from.
In English, to yourself.
In English, to myself. And I sounded fluent to me because I was never surprised. I never had to search for a word because I was saying things I already knew.
That's the core problem with self-talk practice done wrong. You default to your comfort zone. You use the vocabulary you already own.
So, what actually works?
Pressure. Mild, manageable, self-created pressure. The most effective solo speaking practice is responding to questions you haven't prepared for. Random ones. Ask your phone to generate 10 questions on a random topic. Cooking, crime documentaries, your unpopular opinions, and just answer. On the fly.
Because you actually have to search. You have to find the word in real time.
That's searching. That's acquisition. That's your brain building the connection between the thought and the English word under mild pressure, which is exactly what happens in a real conversation.
And it's kind of terrifying in the best way because you find out really fast which words you actually own versus which ones you just recognize.
Okay, so here's the part that kind of wrecked me when I found out. And this is the thing nobody tells you about vocabulary learning.
Oh, this is the one word a day thing?
So the advice is learn one new word a day. Say it 3 times, write a sentence, use it. And that sounds deeply reasonable.
365 words a year. Clean. Sustainable.
One native English speaker knows approximately 20,000 to 35,000 words.
Mike,
At one word a day, you'll be there in roughly 295 years.
that's the plan. Start at 5, fluent at 60.
But here's the actual twist. The number doesn't matter as much as where the word lives in your brain. There's a concept called passive vocabulary, words you understand when you hear them, and active vocabulary, words you can actually reach for when you speak.
Wait, so you can know a word and still not be able to use it?
Most learners' passive vocabulary is 3 to 5 times larger than their active vocabulary. They understand way more English than they can produce.
So the gap isn't actually how many words you know, it's how many of those words you can access under pressure.
The one word a day method is fine, but the goal isn't to add it to your notebook. The goal is to move it from passive to active. And the only way to do that is using it out loud before you feel ready.
That changes everything about how you practice. It's not about learning more, it's about activating what's already in there.
You know what's funny? I only made that passive versus active connection because someone in our comments last week brought up almost exactly this problem.
Which, sidebar, if you're not subscribed, you're missing half the show. The comment section is genuinely where stuff gets interesting.
Subscribe. Like it if something landed today. And honestly, send this to one person. One. Someone who's been grinding at their English and feeling stuck.
And every month, we notice 3 people in this community, not at random, people who actually show up, leave something worth reading, help someone else figure something out in the replies.
We see you. That's all I'll say.
Could be you. Just saying. Okay, third part 5 minutes of writing or reading. And this one, I have less of a problem with the concept and more of a problem with the execution.
What do you mean?
They say write 3 to 5 sentences about your day, and that's genuinely useful. But most people write the safest sentences they can think of. Today was good. I had lunch. I was tired.
I have read that journal entry across like 6 languages.
It's universal. But here's the thing when you write safe sentences, you're not practicing, you're documenting what you already know how to say.
So what's the alternative?
Write one sentence that breaks you a little bit, a sentence that requires a structure or a word you don't fully own yet, and then fix it. Look it up, ask someone, adjust. The break is the learning.
Because writing safe is what you do when you're afraid of being wrong. And being afraid of being wrong in a private journal that literally nobody sees is a choice.
I wrote in my journal in my native language for 2 years because English felt too hard. 2 years of perfect diary entries that did absolutely nothing for my English.
That's so common, though, and understandable. But yeah, the goal of the writing practice isn't correctness, it's edge pushing. One sentence that makes you reach.
And if reading is your jam, same principle. Read something just slightly above your comfort level. Not incomprehensibly hard, just 10% above where you're comfortable. That's the zone where real acquisition happens.
Children's books are genuinely useful, by the way. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The sentences are architectural. Clean grammar, clear vocabulary, zero noise.
Just maybe don't bring a children's book to a coffee shop. Or do, be the main character. Okay, so let's actually put this together. Like, what does a good 15-minute practice actually look like? Because the time is fine, the commitment is fine.
It's the content of the 15 minutes that does the work, or doesn't.
So, you open a 2-minute clip, something real, something you'd watch anyway. A short comedy bit, a podcast moment, a random interview. You listen once with a purpose. One question in your head.
Then you close the tab, and you reconstruct it. Out loud. What did they say? How did they say it? What words surprised you?
Then speaking. But you're not describing your morning. You pull out your phone, you ask it for a random question, something you couldn't have prepared for, and you answer it.
Out loud, not quietly, not in your head. Your mouth has to practice moving.
And if you stumble on a word, good. That's the word you're learning today. Not the word you looked up in a vocabulary list. The word your brain went looking for and couldn't find.
Then, 5 minutes of writing. One sentence that breaks you. One sentence that requires language you don't fully own yet. You fix it, you move on.
That's your 15 minutes. And here's the difference. You've been pushing the edge of what you can do the whole time, not just existing comfortably inside it.
And remember what we said about active vocabulary. Every time you reach for a word under pressure, even in a private solo practice, you are moving it from the shelf to the table, from passive to active.
You're not just practicing English, you're building access to it, which is the actual thing that changes how you sound.
Okay, here's your dare. Not homework, a dare.
Open your voice notes right now. Set a timer for 90 seconds and answer this question out loud. Tell me about a moment when English really failed you. What happened? What did you try to say? And what actually came out?
Don't write it down first. Don't plan it. Just go. And if you hit a word you can't find, notice it. That word, that's your actual vocabulary gap. Way more useful than a random word of the day.
Then drop your story in the comments. The more embarrassing, the better, honestly. Those are the ones that make everyone feel less alone.
And serious question, has anyone ever corrected your English in a way that actually stuck? Like the correction that changed something permanently? We genuinely want to know.
And if there's something in English that has been making you feel stuck, a specific pattern, a word, a situation where your English just locks up, drop it. We actually read them all. Everyone.
Okay, but the passive to active thing is going to stay with me. I'm going to start applying that to a lot of things that aren't English.
Next week, we're going somewhere that makes intermediate speakers realize they might be less advanced than they thought. That's all I'll give you.
Subscribe if you haven't. Like it if something landed. And one person, you know one person who needs this. Send it.
Genuinely, thank you for being here. You had options today. Other videos, other things, other tabs. You chose this one. That's not nothing to us.
It really isn't. We'll be back,
Keep reaching for the word.
even when it's embarrassing. Especially then.